Hi everyone, my name's Stephana Ferrell. I am a public school parent up here in Orange County, and I am one of two leaders here at Florida Freedom to Read Project. Thank you so much for giving me this time today, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but I wanted to share a bit about what's going on around the state. So there are currently over 6,000 unique censorship attempts that have happened since the fall of 2021. They have impacted more than 3,000 unique titles. That number increased exponentially when Escambia County decided to cast a very wide net for an internal review to ensure that they were pulling every single book that might possibly run afoul of laws. Including the dictionary, including the thesaurus, including Ripley's Believe It or Not. And so we see this huge increase in censorship happening because our laws have changed so dramatically over the last 2 years with very little guidance, but also a lot of threats to our educators for running afoul of the law. And the main piece of guidance is err on the side of caution, which ends up looking like err on the side of censorship. And it's doing a lot of harm for our kids. So I want to talk briefly about what's going on in Lee County. In Lee County, we have seen tens of thousands of books being withheld from shelves this year, not in our school libraries, but in our classroom libraries. This happened not just in Lee, but in many counties across the district because a rule change occurred and the definition of a library media center was expanded to include every teacher's personal classroom library collection. The books that they have accumulated over time through their own purchases, through grants, and through parent donations. All of those books now required certified media specialist approval, and in K through 5 they needed to be cataloged and put online so that any resident in the county could review it and challenge a book if they felt it was running afoul of the law, of being age inappropriate. And so we see a lot of books that are being kept off the shelves as certified media specialists, of which there are only a few in the district, make their way through approving these books. And so it's not necessarily content related restrictions as much as it is a resource-based issue to come into compliance with the new law. The other thing that we see happening in Lee County are, specifically this year, a number of books that were challenged during the 21-22 school year by a group called Florida Citizens Alliance, which works in Southwest Florida primarily, and has a list of books that they deem pornographic. They are bringing those books forward once again now that the laws have changed in an effort to get them removed. And so at the very last week of February, a committee came together to review a few children's books that had LGBTQ plus representation, books like Anne Tango Makes Three. These books were decided back in 21-22 that they were perfectly appropriate for K through 5 students, and if a parent wanted to place a limitation on their student and restrict access to those books, they could. But they were not going to be removed because it would be discriminatory to remove books based off the characters and who they represent. So those books were retained in 2021-2022. Prior to HB 1557 passing. That was the original Parental Rights in Education, or the law that became known as Don't Say Gay. Now that that law is in place and it was expanded in HB 1069 to include pre-K through 8, we see these challenges coming forward again. HB 1069 also put in place that not just pornography, but any sexual conduct whatsoever could be called into question. And we're not keeping in mind what the context is, or whether it's sexual assault that's being addressed in the book. These types of groups want to equate all sexual conduct as if it's the same. And so books that were originally reviewed in 21 and 22 and went back to our high school library shelves are now getting reviewed again under this new expansion of the rule to see whether or not we would still determine as a community that they are age appropriate. And so that's what we see happening now, and what we need from regular citizens, residents and parents alike, students as well, to come together to let the school board know that we can recognize the difference between real pornography and the books that are in our schools that reflect the lives that our students have, and the experiences and the risks and some of the situations that they might find themselves in as young people. We need people coming up and saying, we're not going to tolerate viewpoint discrimination and censorship in our schools. We believe that every student deserves to have their lives reflected on the shelf. And that means that books with LGBTQ plus families and books that address racism, segregation, discrimination, social justice movements, those books belong on our library shelves, even if they are limited in classroom instruction. The last thing I'm going to add here, because I'm running low on time, I'm already over. There is legislation currently in the Senate. It passed the House already. It's House Bill 1285. The companion bill is Senate Bill 996. There is some debate between the House and the Senate over whether we should have a $100 fee restriction or whether we should have a one per month restriction on residents who file challenges in the district. But there is some movement this legislative session that you can support by calling your senators and asking them to amend statute 1006.28 in House Bill 1285 or 996, Senate Bill 996, and have them slow down or curb some of the censorship that we see. Going forward, we're going to need your help reaching out to the Florida Department of Education. We need better guidance coming out of the state to our districts so that we aren't erring on the side of caution to the point where we're removing books that represent the lives of our students. That needs to be clarified by the Florida DOE. And then the other thing that we need is going forward for future legislative sessions 2025, we really need teachers to get their classroom libraries back. It's an uphill battle, we know, to get these certified media specialists to approve the classroom libraries, but going forward, being able to adapt a classroom library to meet the needs of the students in that room, it's so important, and the teachers should be able to do that. We don't want to take that away from our teachers. And the small government solution to supporting parental rights in the classroom is allowing a parent to set restrictions for their own child. And that means if they need to talk to their teacher and say, hey, let's not have my child use your classroom library. I'm not comfortable not knowing every single book on the shelf. I'll support with books in the classroom, and then the library media center where I can review the entire catalog, my student can have access there. And so that's the small government solution that uplifts every parent's rights, and we really need to push for that going forward. I'm going to take this time just to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And let's protect the right to read. Thank you.